Hello everyone, this is Beebs and today we're going to be reviewing the Ohuhu based alcohol markers. This is I believe their fashion set, and I got it as a what do you want for your birthday, and then I sent the link because I was actually going to buy these myself for my birthday, and then my friend offered to do it. So yeah, so we're going to be trying them out. I have a whole tub of alcohol markers. I've used Copics and Artist Lofts. Those are both the brands I'm familiar with, but we're gonna go ahead and check. I've been meaning to get new alcohol markers anyways. So it comes in this snazzy little container, and I really love that it came in this container. Again, as I showed you with the big bin of doom, I don't have a really great way of storing my Copic markers, so this really helps the storage aspects, and I absolutely adore these. I was going to have to make my own color swatch, and I was already prepared for it, and it came with color swatch already. So we're gonna go ahead and do the color swatch. We're gonna see if the colors actually look like what it says on here or if it's different, how we like it, and yeah, we're gonna take an upper close look at the marker. So we're gonna have two different tips. We have a brush tip, although it doesn't feel too bendy. Maybe it's just because it hasn't been used. And then we also have a chisel tip. And I have used, again, as I said, here are the different type of markers I've used. So this is a Copic in comparison. As you can see, the Copic's a little thicker, but because Ohuhu is like a little triangle, it probably has either a smaller amount of that alcohol liquid in it comparatively, and then you have the Artist Loft, which is also in that triangle shape and is also pretty big. Both of them also have a chisel tip, so in size comparison, we can tell the Artist Loft is definitely the bigger one of the tips, with the smallest being Ohuhu. I'll be real, I don't really care about the chisel tips at all. My love and baby is in the brush nib. So just pulling them out off the bat, they're all kind of the same size. Again, Ohuhu being a smaller. This one is more of a, like, it bends pretty easily. Or this one does not bend, and then this one of course has the most bend, which is Copic. So that's just off the bat there. But let's go ahead and color swatch these. Now we're gonna just color swatch each one of the markers, get a good feel of how the brush moves across the paper. Sometimes I found that like brushes can catch on the paper. I know that sounds really weird, but I swear I feel like that's a thing. Maybe I'm just crazy, but these were gliding really well and they had a lot of ink in them, so that was really nice. My biggest thing with alcohol markers, which I'm not going to be able to get into today just because they are a fresh batch of alcohol markers, is that how quickly they dry out. I don't know if I'm a user and abuser of alcohol marker, especially back in my heyday of alcohol marker, like when I used them a lot. I don't use them as much anymore. I'm trying to get back into it, but I'm not going to necessarily force myself. Anyways, I digress. I think these ones had a lot of alcohol in them, and the pigment off the bat was just really nice. So I want to say I have a feeling these are gonna last longer than my Copics would. This is me realizing that alcohol markers bleed, and I'm on my white tablecloth. So it didn't bleed too much, but I think it did get a little bit onto the table, which is fine because it was right next to one of the branches I had read. But I was just like, maybe I shouldn't be doing that. I also don't know why, and this kind of, I'm curious as to why every single one of these are a number and then the color under, and then there's B.O. I'm really confused about that, and I'm too lazy to Google it. If you guys know the answer, let me know, but I ain't Googling it. I will say I really do love the color variation of this palette. I think it does have a really good mix of all the different colors and all the different tonal types. If you watched my last video and if you haven't, go watch it. I was talking about the Ohuhu acrylic marker set, and in that set while there was quite a few different colors of everything, there wasn't any tonal changes. So they were all pretty much the same tone. And I explained in that video, like if you made it in a grayscale, it would all kind of look like a similar shade. But these ones I feel like have a really good tonal shift. So they all look really different, that even if you put it in a black and white scale, you could still tell the lights to the darks. And I also think all the colors like that go lightest to darkest would blend really well into each other. Like they all kind of have a similar undertone, but a different enough that you can play around with it. So I just like how malleable each one of these are. I also want to give you the different price ranges I mentioned with the Copic Artist Loft and the Ohuhu markers. So this set of 48 Ohuhu markers, they only cost about $20, I believe. Right now Michael's is saying $25. I believe Amazon sold them cheaper, and around that time I also don't trust prices right now because it's the season of Black Friday, so everyone like temporarily raised their price so they can put a discount on it that isn't a real discount, but we still eat it up every single time. That is me. Anyway, so I believe I got it for 20, and then 48 Artist Loft markers are currently retailing for $150. So that is quite a lot more, which is an Artist Loft, if you don't know, I'm pretty sure most people know at this point, is like, you know how each grocery store has their own like fruit brand, so like Ralph's has Simple Truth. Artist Loft is Michael's version of that, but with art supplies. So it's typically cheaper than a normal art supply, but it's not like the worst quality item you could get. Like honestly, there's a lot worse, but it's not like you struck gold. So I'm not seeing like a 48 pack of Copic markers on Michael's. I honestly just have the Michael's app open and just looking at it, but there is a set of 36 and it costs $210 for that set, and I believe that's not even including the brush nib, which is honestly the best part about alcohol markers. I don't like chisel tip, in my opinion. I haven't tried the chisel tip on Ohuhu markers. Maybe I do that, but every single time I use a chisel tip, it never works. Like the ink just never comes out of a chisel tip. I don't know, maybe I'm doing something wrong, I don't know, but like it's without fail always happens. That's all the different price ranges, and honestly, with my experience with Artist Loft and Copic, I honestly believe that Ohuhu alcohol markers are my favorite. This could also change though, depending on how fast these dry up, because I think the reason why I don't like Copic and Artist Loft as much is just because of their fast dry up. I do prefer Copics over Artist Loft, but I do own more Artist Loft because I'm balling on a budget, and sometimes I don't want to spend like $10 on a freaking marker. So I think that's, or more, honestly. So that is my opinion regarding that. I also really love the grayscale and all the different tones of browns in this set. I think it is so nice, and I feel like a lot of sets don't offer that. And that is both the swatches side by side. And honestly, I really love the shade ranges in this set. And I just love almost all the colors in this set. And then we are going to open up the drawing we're going to be test drawing it on. So I got my coffin sketchbook and we are ready to take on the day. And this is the line art, and we're not talking about how she looks a little cross-eyed. I go ahead and fix that. But this was part of my Halloween Inktober prompt called Drawtober. I ended up not being able to finish all of the prompts. In my last video, I kind of talk about it. My chronic migraines got really bad again, and I was getting them like every 2 weeks. So I just didn't have time nor the energy to go to work, try to live life, do my chores, function as a human being, and draw. So I unfortunately didn't get them, but I still finished this and I still filmed the video, so I still wanted to share. So the prompt for this was Spellbound Princess, and while it's not very maybe as obvious as turning her into the beast or anything, I really wanted to make this really elegant piece that is very light colored in itself and then has this like almost magic seal above her throat, which allows her not to speak, almost like her voice is taken away. I thought that was just such a beautiful concept. And at the end of this video, I don't think it turned out exactly how I wanted it to, but I still think it looked very, very pretty. So I'm glad at the end result, even if it didn't turn out exactly how I was thinking it was turning out. But the main color I wanted this to be was a bright pink for those elements. And then I kind of have a process to make things shiny. So I always go with the dark color, and then I try to always go in with like a richer dark color. So even I used this light pink, and now I'm going in with this dark purple for that high contrast. And then I'll slowly warm it up and make sure the highlights are popping and the darks are dark right next to each other to give this like shiny look. So at this point, all I knew I wanted about this piece was that I wanted the spell part to be pink and I wanted the background to be black. I had no other idea. I had no other vision. That was it. So I was kind of focusing on the gems probably a little too long just because I was like, I have no idea about any of the color scheme. And I could always throw this in Procreate and do like a color mock-up, but I think that would be like way too easy and way too simple for my little brain to do sometimes. So I, of course, go, every single phrase I want to say in this case is not YouTube friendly, especially as starting out. But I basically said, you know what, screw this. We're just gonna pop blue in her eyebrows because I think blue really contrasts her hair and the gems nicely. I also couldn't make her blonde because she does have the Sailor Moon hair, which I didn't even mean to do. I was trying to go for like alien futuristic, and then like I did everything and I was like, oh my god, this is literally Sailor Moon's hair. But you know what? Sailor Moon is an icon, and I love her hair, and I will draw inspiration from all my childhood shows. Fun fact, I still haven't finished Sailor Moon because I was so sad for it to end that if I never finished the ending, I could never finish it. Because I loved it so much as a kid. And I still haven't finished it. One day I'll go back to it and finish it because I do love that series. But even if it's sometimes interesting at times. But yeah. So with this, I'm just doing one section at the time. That way I'm able to blend it out and not have non-blend out pieces. And it also gives me a chance to like do a test run and then see if I hate it. And then since it's a little section, I can probably fix it. Was the thought process also behind. But I wanted to kind of make sure I got this depth, as that was also a really main focus of mine with the high highlights and the dark lowlights. Although this did end up changing at the end because I did a little oopsie, and you'll see what I mean by that. Now off to the rambling part of the video. So it's currently December. By the way, I filmed this video in like October. It's so bad. But I'm currently doing the voiceover on December. Me and my boyfriend earlier this week picked up our tree, and I was very adamant because we were getting a small tree. So me and my boyfriend just moved in together earlier this year, and in the apartment there isn't too much space. Most of the space that we like do have is already covered with like a bunch of stuff because I have a bunch of crap, and it's how it goes. It's how it goes, especially because all my art stuff kind of just seeps everywhere, and then I just have like a lot of knickknacks. And the sad fact is that's not even like all of it. There's still like a bunch of stuff my parents' house that I have to get, which I'm crying about, but I digress. So we got the Christmas tree. It's like a 4-foot Christmas tree, and I was totally okay with a small tree. We're not really decorating for Christmas either, just because again, we do have a small apartment. There's no real need or reason to like really decorate for Christmas. But one thing I was like, we need to have, I don't care how big the tree is, but we do need a real tree, just because, especially if we're not having Christmas decorations, I feel like we need a real tree. Also, like, even if we got a fake tree, I don't even know where we would put it after. Like, I don't know where we would put it after we had Christmas. So honestly, the real tree worked out. I didn't care how big it was, but I did need it to be flocked. He had no idea what flocking was. Please tell me this is not some like weird thing. Like, most people know what flocking is. And if you don't know what flocking is, it's basically fake snow on the tree to make it look like it has fake snow. I love flocking. My family has, not every year, but a lot of years have gotten flocked on a tree. In the past, I've had like colored flock, so my tree was pink, and I really loved it. And I was kind of hoping this place had color flocked, but apparently that is not a thing where I live, or I went to the wrong tree farm. But there was also not a lot of tree farms in the area, which I was kind of surprised at. There was only like one main one, and I'm in like a relatively big city. And I'm like, why, other than this one, is like the next tree farm like an hour away, other than like the Home Depots? So that was actually really interesting, and I wasn't really prepared for that. But we did get the tree. We picked it up last night. We haven't decorated it yet because he had to take care of a family thing, but I want to finish decorating the tree. We only have like 3 ornaments, which is completely fine. I'm not looking for a lot of ornaments because I think we're going to start doing the thing where we start going places and we're going to start picking up ornaments and kind of create like that Christmas tradition of grabbing ornaments every year. So we picked up 2 at Target that were really cute. Mine was a little knockoff Remy the Rat, but Christmas. It was like a little white mouse, and he got like a glass deer or a fake glass deer. And then I already have 2. I have Jerry, which is, I don't know what he is. He might be a sheep. It's like this sheep in a bathrobe, and his name is Jerry, and they go by every pronoun. And it's the most beautiful thing ever. Currently, it's hanging off my light/fan, like, you know, the little click-clack things, like where you pull it down and it'll start the fan. It's hanging on that like tie thing in my bedroom, like Jesus. But I'm gonna switch his placement, and we didn't like get a star or anything. There were like a couple of like mini stars like that we could have put on the tree that would like fit our like small tree, but it just wasn't a vibe. It just didn't look good, and honestly I'd rather Jerry be the star of the tree. I like the past couple years with my roommates, because they've always had a fake tree, we always put Jerry as the star of the tree because he's iconic, he is the moment, and they are just amazing, and I love her so much. Period. But as we decorate the tree, I'm making him wrap the Christmas presents we already have. I already wrapped both of his that he actually has no idea of. One of the presents I haven't gotten him yet just because I have to go to the store with him. We haven't gotten. I'm getting him a new pair of running shoes because his current pair are ran through. So we just haven't gone to the store with that, really. Then I'm also... See, I'm so tired. I worked 8 days in a row, and it was like the most, like, I actually had to like really work, like mentally I was challenged, physically I was challenged. So I'm just exhausted. I want to go through my fridge because A, we haven't like grocery shopped in a month, so like half that stuff is bad. And then B, I wanted to make like sugar cookies, but I need to look up recipes, and I'm way too lazy for that. So fuck Christmas, I guess. One thing I will also say as a negative review for these markers is that I don't know if it's just right now just because they're so full of the pigment, but right now anytime I'm like drawing, I would get like dots of the colors like flicked off. So if I was drawing with this dark blue marker, right, I would have like the dark blue markers going around into those other sections, and it, especially if it's supposed to be a light section and then you have this kind of random blue dot, it's a little random and it's a little weird, and I saw many markers did this. I actually used these markers for a different project I was working on and it was having the same result. So that is one thing I will not say as a plus to these markers, is that why did I have to randomly just flick out the product and then attack the rest of my painting? I also know I mentioned it earlier, but like this whole entire art piece, I was not sure about the color story. I didn't know what color to make her dress at all. I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna make it green because I was like, I feel like green could be a color. Looking back, I could have done purple as well, but I actually don't hate the fact I did green. I actually think it made it pop out a little bit more than and give it more personality than if I did purple and kind of had it blend in the background. This gave it kind of a uniqueness and a personality I feel like the purple wouldn't have, because the purple was more just serving the color palette. Well, this gave kind of the character of like, look, she likes green. Or maybe this is just me talking out of my butt. It could be that. It's probably that. So I don't know if I talked about this earlier, but when I rewatch, I guess I'll see. But my go-to trick to get a rich black color that doesn't fall flat is so first you go ahead and put this navy indigo blue under where you're wanting to have the pure black be. Always have that blue be your base first, just because it's going to give more depth to the black and not make it look as flat. You can also use purple or a green too to create that depth, but for the specific vibe I was going for, which was for like a night sky black, I thought blue undertone would work a lot better. I think I do go back in with the blue again. I'm not entirely sure on the top of my head. We'll find out, right? Just to kind of blend it out. But I always do a couple layers of the black, because even now you can see how streaky the black is, even with that blue undertone. It does take a little bit of layers to kind of give it that more opaque feeling that doesn't have that many streakiness. But there was always going to be an element of streakiness in it. So this is where I made my oopsie, and then I stopped drawing for a very long time on this piece. So for a very long time, I did not know if I wanted to keep, I mean, you can tell the change of like time with my nails. I didn't know if I wanted to have this piece have like a skin color or just keep it white. I eventually decided to give it more depth. I do a skin color, and oh boy, did I regret it. I then used, as one would use, the dark blue to shade the skin color. And this side in particular literally made me give up. I hated how it was shaded. I hated how it blended in. It just looked super just jagged, and it just feel like it did not make sense to me. And looking back, it literally just does not look that bad. But when I was doing it, it was a lot more harsher than I was having it be, especially comparatively to the dress and to the hair. I just wasn't happy with it. I also didn't like, if you see the lip, there's like a little jut from the chin to the cheek. I hated that, and then I tried going back over, and it just wasn't going well at all. And it kind of just made me give up on the piece for a little bit, just because I feel like the skin didn't match the hair or the dress at all. And I had actually really liked the sketch, so I wasn't entirely sure what to do about it. I ended up just going, fuck it, we ball, and I went over everything with a darker color to make that like color contrast a lot more pigmented, which you'll see at the end, which I think worked really well in my favor. But I feel like, especially with copics, and this is not like the Ohuhu Markers fault, this is like a skill issue fault. I switch between so many mediums all the time that I sometimes forget how certain medias act. For example, right before this piece, I was working with acrylic paint markers. Before that, I was working on digital, and before that, I was working on acrylic paint. They're all such a variety of different tools, especially one thing that has in common for acrylic and digital is that you can fix your mistakes pretty well. Acrylic, you can always just blob another layer of paint, hide that bitty, no problem. Digital, you can always erase, you can always change the opacity, you can always kind of fix it. You can't really do that with copics unless you're going darker, and I had already gone as dark as I wanted to, and I didn't want to go darker. And at this point, I'm just blending my heart out, hoping I'm fixing it, and I feel like I actually am, in fact, not fixing it. So that was my issue. But don't worry, obviously I wouldn't have made this video if I had given up before anything. As you can see, I added a lot more pink to her skin as well to kind of counteract that blue. I actually don't hate the pink, and it took me a very long time to not hate the pink, I will be honest. I think this was honestly, for what I was going for, a pretty realistic look. It just wasn't my initial feeling, and especially did feel very disconnected from the hair and the lighting pieces and the dress, because I did not shade it as dark, so I did have to go back with those and reshade them. But overall, I think it was relatively successful, and I did I think a pretty good job at saving this piece, when for a very long time I thought I could not save it. Just sometimes putting more stuff on and just praying to God works. It does work. Sometimes it doesn't though, and I thought this was one of those pieces that we're not gonna do that. Okay, back to the ramble and a little cooking update. A little warning. I don't go into graphics, but I do accidentally talk about kitchen and blades. So do what you will with that. It should take 30 seconds to go over it. So if you're sensitive, go ahead and skip. I'm starting now. Apparently, mandolins are known for cutting people's fingers off, and I was the last one to know about this, and I did take a chunk of my knuckle completely off. So that was really fun. Everyone I talked to then after saying, oopsie, were like, didn't you know you have to be so careful with those? They are so known to taking like your hand off. People have created gloves, and I was just like, no one let me know in my cooking adventure this wasn't a like thing. I did stop using it after I cut my hand, so at least I did have a brain cell there. I was just like, okay, I'm done. Okay, let's put it back. I have enough carrots now because I bought like 2 boxes of stuffing because stuffing is like one of my favorite foods, and I bought some potatoes, and I'd had it for like 2 weeks from Thanksgiving time. So I finally sat down and made so I could just have like meal prep for the next week, and this was one of the things. Yeah, that was a shame, and it was hard to wash dishes after. Actually, I lied. It was hard to wash dishes after, and then like it would not stop bleeding. It didn't really hurt though, so that was kind of good news. But I probably won't be cooking for a little bit, although I do want to bake, but that doesn't require knives, so I'm typically good with that, unless I'm chopping off walnuts for my banana nut bread. But even then, I trust myself with walnuts, I think. So it's about here that I start making the hair darker to kind of match how the shading in the skin is a bit darker. So I'm using a dark blue. I'm also going in with purples, and I'm also going with that highlight pink. And I think at this point I was kicking myself for not highlighting the hair with pink earlier, like just by itself, but beggars can't be choosers, and this is just the way it happened. I still think it turned out pretty nice though, regardless. So I did use a bright, stronger pink to make it look like it still worked, but again, it wasn't like that really bright pink. And as you can see, the hair gets dark pretty fast, which is a relatively good thing comparatively, and I think it does an overall blend a lot easier into the overall composition. Here I now start going in, making that dress darker. Again, I just go straight in with that dark blue with no regrets and no hesitation. And I end up making the dress darker, which again fits into the color scheme a lot better. I'm also using purple to shade everything. So this is the last bit I did record. I didn't record doing the other page or doing the final touches just because I wasn't sure if I would be able to save this, and just on the off chance I couldn't, because I was still pretty unhappy with it at this point, even though I'm looking back at it and I'm like, hey, actually that's not that bad at all, beeps. But at this point when I was just doing it, I felt pretty low confidence, so I didn't record. I ended up, because I didn't like how white that other page looked comparatively to this page, I ended up, and I felt like maybe the like magic symbol over her throat wasn't particularly clear about what her curse was. I made the text go silence with the same like magic pattern of like the pink, and then I also made that background black, and then I kind of had the same white gel pen and the pink glitter gel pen make all the finishing touches, which I think really pulled in the piece together. Overall, I really did like these alcohol markers a lot. I think that anything I screwed up on was more my mistake than anything else. I will say I feel like the blend could be a little better with them. As you can see, they kind of feather out a lot if you're trying to blend them out with other colors, which is a good and bad thing, because again, you do want them to blend out, but also I feel like at a certain point it was just feathering out and not blending perfectly, and there were definitely points where like if I blended it with a lighter color, that darker color kind of just like disappeared in general and there was nothing left of that color. But overall, I still love them, and I still am using them for other pieces, so I think they're definitely worth the money, especially if you're just getting into alcohol markers. I don't think you need to go with Artist Loft. I don't think you need to go with Copics. I think this is a great brand to start with, and if maybe you want to dip in your toes, I think Copics are a good way to like start dipping your toes in. I am interested to see if the tips do deteriorate over time, because I have seen that with my Artist Loft ones, especially, and some of my Copics, that like the top just kind of like deteriorates away and you're just like, oh, that's something. So yeah, but we'll see. Alright, and this is the final piece. Please let me know if you think I saved this piece or if it looks just as disgusting as you thought it would look. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a magical day. Please go ahead and give me a subscribe or check out my other videos. I am trying to post a lot more. And I have this video and another video I'm currently editing and another one I'm filming. So yeah, I will be posting. I will be here. I hope you all have a fantastic day. Bye.